Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll show you how to use Makefile to make your life easier as a software developer. So I'm on my terminal right now, let me just clear up everything. So I'm assuming, let me say, I'm running these commands here. Okay, I'm running these commands. These are the steps that I would literally take to be able to build my application. So the first step is to make sure that I build the application, log into Docker, and also push the application to Docker. Now these are 3 steps. It might not really make a lot of sense, and might not be that painful, but what happens is we do have additional steps like deploying on Kubernetes, restarting the container, and then running the application. So these are additional steps that makes everything typing in the commands and all that quite complex. So let's do this before introducing Makefile, and then we see how this works out, and then we also see how we can be able to do it using Makefile. All right, so when we are building the application, so what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna do docker build, and I'm just gonna tag this to my repository name, and then also this particular service. So this is gonna be gateway service, and then I'm just gonna build it like in the current directory. So I'll just give this a couple of minutes once it gets done, and then we proceed. So since I'd already built this, so it's just gonna take like a few seconds, and then once this is done, and then we can move on to the next step. So the first step is done. So now the next step is of course to make sure that we log into Docker Hub. So to do that, I'll just say docker login, and then of course this will basically log in using my username, and then I will proceed. So this is also done, and then the next step is of course to push this application to Docker Hub. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do docker push, and then I'll specify my username, and then the service that I'm pushing, or perhaps application. So this is going to be gateway service, like that. And then of course based on the current layers that I do have, it can take some time, or perhaps it can just be quick. So since most of the layers existent, this is gonna take short time, and then we can proceed. So as this proceed, let's just give it a couple of seconds. So this is also done. Now the next step is to make sure that we deploy this application like on Kubernetes. Now to do this, I'm going to run a couple of commands, and this is gonna be using the manifest here. So I do have a deployment here, whereby I do define my the image that I'm pulling. This is the email that we just pushed with the latest tag, and then of course my different secrets, and then the configurations just as included there. So to do this, I'll just do kubectl, and then I'll just do apply, and then I'll specify the file, and then I'll do manifest, because every file is inside the manifest folder or directory. So I'm just gonna do enter, and then of course most of the things are unchanged, so everything will be quite okay. And then once I'm done with that, now the next step on our readme file is of course to restart this container, and then start the application. So you can see that this is quite a lot of steps. Okay, now what if we just have like one file that we just call, and then makes everything easy for us? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a file, and I'm gonna name this file Makefile. So I'll just start with capital letters, capital letter for the first, and then the rest of them small letters. You can also just make this all lowercase, but I just prefer using that. So within this, I'll start, as you can see, there's already a recommendation, but I will just not go with that. So within this, I can already start working out to basically write some of these commands that we saw doing on early here, so that this can be able to be run automatically. So To do that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna define a couple of variables to just basically represent my you know uh, my my configurations. So the first thing I'm gonna specify the project name here, project underscore name, and then I'm just gonna point this to my username like that. So you'll see this in a couple of minutes. This is not necessary, but this is how I keep my configuration. So this is gonna be gateway service like that, and then I also define container name. Container name is gonna be a gateway service, and then I'll define the compose file. Okay, and then this is gonna be Docker compose. So this points onto the Docker compose, just like the way you can see it there. And then the next thing that I'm gonna do is also define a Docker file like that. And then once I'm done with that, I'm gonna do define a couple of files like the deployment file, which is gonna point to my manifest. So this is gonna be deployment file like underscore file like that. Okay, so this is gonna point to my manifests. Okay, manifests like that, and then this is gonna be deployment, and then of course we do also have the config map file, config map like file, just like that. And then we also have the secret underscore file. This is gonna also be manifest underscore manifest, and then we also do have the service, the service which is gonna point like to the service. So service like that. But my file for the service, my file for the service is named as services. So this is gonna be services. So to just make sure everything is consistent. And then one more thing that we do have is the service name. So let me just define this real quick. So I explain everything in a minute. So service name. This is gonna be gateway like that. Gateway app, and then service. Okay. All right. So just double check this. Okay. All right. Now that we do have those variables, now the next thing we would like to do is, of course, to define like this, funny file, funny like that. And then now with this, it helps us basically to just make sure that we do not really, confuse, the different, commands that we run using Makefile. So that's why we need that. So I'm just gonna leave that for a moment, and then I'll just start, defining, a couple of, make commands that we shall be able to use. So the first one, I would like to name it Dockerize. So I'll just call this Dockerize, because this is where I'll be able to run all my Docker commands. So I'll apply in some commands like to be able to show me whatever is going on the terminal. So the first thing is I'm just gonna do echo, and then I'll just say applying. Okay, applying. Okay, let me just say building. Let me say image. Okay, building image, or perhaps I could just say Docker image like that, and then I'll specify the project name. So to do this, I'll just use the variable that we defined on earlier on, and then I'll just specify it like that. So once I'm done with that, the next thing I'd like to do is to make sure that I actually run the actual command. So I can also tag in the latest tag that I'm building here. Okay, so to now run the actual command, this is where I take in the command that we just ran like on our terminal. Okay, if you can just see it like here, this is Docker. Let me just source Docker build. Okay, so this is Docker build. So Docker build. Okay, and then this is gonna be tag, and then we specify our username like that. Oops, what's happening here? This is supposed to be all small letters. Okay, docker build. Okay, then we tag the name. Okay, and then we specify the name. So now instead of using gateway service, we should just use the project name that we just defined on earlier. So this is where the power of the variables comes in, so that in case we just change anything, we can just redo everything without breaking stuff. So I'll just do container name. Okay, name, and then I'll specify like the tag. So this tag is gonna be latest. Okay, and then I can specify the file. Okay, so this file is gonna be our our Docker file, the one that we just defined up in here, Docker file. Okay, so now once we're done with that, now the next thing we would like to do is of course to log in. If you can see, like on the next step here is like we log into Docker. So to do that, we just say Docker, okay, login, and then that's it for the command for for logging in. But before we do that, we would just love to give like a nice and clean command that we're logging in into our Docker. So to do that, I'll just say logging into Docker Hub like that. Okay, uh, yeah, like that, nice and clean. So now once we're done logging in, the next thing we would like to do is to make sure that we push this application to Docker. So to do that, we shall specify like a command. So the first thing, I'll just copy this, and then I'll just say uh, pushing the application, okay, to Docker Hub. Okay, to Docker Hub. Okay, like that. Log into Docker Hub and then push the application to Docker Hub. So to do this, Copilot is already. Let me just disable this for this project. Disable completions for Makefile. Okay, so that we don't have any distraction. So we should just do a Docker push, and then we specify our our name. But for now, instead of using just like a generic name like this, what we can do is to use what we kind of like define in there. Okay, so now for logging in, we should just provide the container name, I mean the project name. So the project name that we just defined here contains this, and also that. So it should just actually even be with the same thing with this one. So I'll just say the project name. So the project name is gonna be I'll just start with this $sign, and then I'll just say project name like that. Okay, and then after specifying the project name, and then I can just say this is gonna be like the latest. Okay, like that. So once I specify that, now the next thing is of course to make sure that everything is working on as we planned. So to do that, now we have to just include the commands like for deploying our application like to Kubernetes. So to do that, I'll just specify one more. So I'll just call this one deploy. Okay, I'll just call it Kubernetes. Okay, K8. Let me just call it K8. Okay, like that. So now for this one here, we have to apply the manifest. Okay, like we did when we were on this stage here. We have to apply this manifest, and to apply the manifest, this is pretty much simple. So what we can do is we can just copy in this command here, and then we can just say echo applying. Okay, applying K8 manifest, okay, like that. So now the command to apply that is going to be kubectl, okay, apply, and then we specify the file, and this is going to be in the manifest directory, like that. And then once we're done, applying the manifest, now the next thing is to, of course, restart, our container. Now to restart our container in the Kubernetes, cluster, what we have to do is to, apply this, rollout command. So kubectl roll out, okay, and then restart. Okay, now what restarting is basically the deployment, okay, and this deployment, and then we specify like the container name, okay, uh, container name, like that. And that's pretty much what we need right now. And then of course, once everything is done, like restarting, then we can perhaps uh, apply like a specific port forwarding, like to make sure that our application is running. So to do this, I'll just do kubectl apply, okay, and sorry, kubectl port forward, okay, and this is gonna be the service that we just defined in our service file svc, like that. And then it's gonna be pointing out to our service file. So I'll just specify that service, like that, service file. And then of course we would like to forward the traffic from 8080 to port 80, like that. Okay, now once this is done, now the next thing we have to do is to just basically make sure that we double check and make sure that everything is working on fine, and then we can be able to execute. So let me just copy that once, okay, starting, okay, starting the application, like that. All right, okay. So I hope everything that I've defined in here is basically what is gonna be able to execute. So to do this, now we do not need to really do anything much. So let me just clear this out, and then just kind of like increase this. So a recap is oh, before I forget, I think we forgot to include this here. So in the font, we just have to include this dockerize, and then specify that with another command, which is going to be k8 and then the port, okay, k8 and then the port, like that. So now to recap, we do have these variables that we're using within our application in here. So we do have a command for dockerizing, and then applying our manifest to the k8 cluster, and then we also do have this command to be able to start the pod. Now to do this, to be able to apply all that, all we just have to do is to just run one command, and then all the chunk of code that is within that specific block is going to get executed. So when I just do make dockerize, just watch what's going to happen. So I think we can see that we do have a couple of things that are not quite right here. So let's just see. We do have an error tag, okay, file, docker file, so let's just see, it requires one argument, okay. All right, so let's just come back up, build tag, we're tagging the container name, which is our gateway service, and then latest, and then file. Okay, we're building in the current directory. All right, I think that was okay, something that I forgot. So to do that now, we can see that the application is building this container, and then once it's done building the container, you can see that it's logging into Docker Hub, okay, and then once it's done logging into Docker Hub, it's failing on this stage here, which is push, okay. So push, so now we go back again up, and then we go to this stage which says pushing the application to Docker Hub. So it's gonna be push, project name is actually that, okay, So let's just remove that since it's like the latest. So let's just run this once more. So let's just clear the terminal and then make dockerize. Okay, so it builds again, it logs into Docker Hub, and then it pushes the application. So I mean, imagine just typing all these commands, but now with Makefile, you just have to specify one command and everything, runs. So once that is done, and then now we can, do the K8s and then, also make the pod. So I'll just clear this so you can see that, everything is now pushed. So now, if I just say make K8s like that, we can see that we do have a typo. So this is going to be rollout, rollout, rollout. Is that the correct spelling of rollout? Let me just double check. Rollout, rollout. Okay, like that. So let's just run that once more. So gateway service deployment, gateway service now found. Okay, gateway service deployment. Okay. Um, deployment. I think this is container deployment container name. Container name. So container name. We do have this. Okay. Let me just double check. Okay. I think there is a deployment at the end. So this is kind of like defined from from the deployment. So gateway service deployment, and yeah, so let's just run this once more. Okay, make K8. So we can see that it has applied the deployment services and the configs, and then also restarted our container. So if you go and use canines, we can see that this application is actually getting recreated again because we just restarted the application, and this is like 23 seconds, and then now it's running. Okay, and then now the previous instance is getting terminated. So this is pretty much for it. Then if I do ports, make port like that, you can see that oops, we do have a problem in here. Slash kubectl port forward service file manifest service to YAML 8080 okay. Name may not have more than one slash. So where do we have the problem? Okay, let me see. Okay, kubectl service.yaml. Okay, I think let me just say port forward. Then I just specify like our. Okay, we can do away with this for now. So now if you want to apply everything all together, instead of just doing dockerize and then k8s, what you can just do is you can just let me say just specify a single command, and then everything works out at the same time. So I just say make all. Okay, so every command under all is gonna get executed. So it's gonna dockerize, it's gonna push it, and then it's gonna apply the manifest after logging into the Kubernetes, and then it's gonna restart the application. You get the point. So as you can see, it's on the login stage, and it's pushing the applications. So it's actually here, and then once everything is pushed, and then it's now applying the manifests, and then everything will be done. Okay, now the container is restarted, and there we go. So we do have our instance being recreated. So after being recreated, it's going to terminate the previous instance. So that's it from this video. And if you enjoyed this video, hope you subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you do not miss out on any of the future videos. Until next time, see you guys. Bye.